The air was thick with tension at a quiet roadside gas station in the suburbs. Sunlight glared off the polished black SUV parked by pump number 3. Inside, Nathan Cole, a tall, composed man in his early 50s, sat quietly, scrolling through files on his secure tablet. His tailored suit and calm demeanor made him look like a businessman on his way to an important meeting, but before he could finish fueling, flashing blue and red lights erupted behind him. 2 patrol cars skidded into place, blocking his exit. The doors flung open, and 3 armed officers emerged, guns drawn, voices sharp. "Step out of the vehicle. Hands where we can see them." Nathan froze for a split second, not in fear, but in controlled calculation. His mind was already processing the scene. No prior warning, no identification, excessive escalation. Slowly, he set down the nozzle, raised his hands and stepped out. "Is there a problem, officers?" His voice was steady, almost unnervingly calm. One officer, young and jittery, barked, "We got a report of a suspicious vehicle. License matches yours." Nathan gave a faint, measured smile. "Suspicious? Because I'm a black man in a suit driving a government-issued SUV." The senior officer narrowed his eyes. "Sir, keep your hands visible." A few bystanders had begun filming, sensing something was off. Nathan's posture was deliberate, neither submissive nor threatening, but undeniably authoritative. He spoke again, voice cutting through the tension. "Before you take this any further, I strongly recommend you confirm my identity. You have exactly 1 chance to make the right call." The officers hesitated, unsure why the man before them radiated the quiet confidence of someone who knew the law, and possibly wrote it. In 5 minutes, they'd learn exactly who Nathan Cole was, and their careers would never be the same. Chapter 2. The First Mistake. The young officer, Carter, kept his Glock trained on Nathan, his hands trembling just enough for Nathan to notice. The older one, Sergeant Willis, took a cautious step forward. "Name," Willis demanded. "Nathan Cole," he replied evenly. "Director Nathan Cole." The title seemed to hang in the air, ignored at first. Willis smirked. "Director of what? The gas station?" A couple of his fellow officers chuckled under their breath. Nathan didn't flinch. "Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." The laughter died instantly, but Carter still muttered, "Yeah, right. Everyone's somebody until we run their plates." He signaled to another officer to check the vehicle registration. Meanwhile, Nathan's phone, still in the SUV, began to buzz repeatedly. The secure ringtone was distinctive, the kind that usually meant high-level clearance communication. Willis noticed but ignored it, still trying to assert dominance. "Sir, we have the right to detain you until we verify," Willis insisted. "No," Nathan said calmly. "You have the right to detain a suspect. But when that suspect is a federal officer of my rank, every second you waste can have legal consequences, especially with cameras recording." Carter scoffed. "Legal consequences for doing our jobs?" Nathan's gaze sharpened. For overstepping them, big difference, the officer running the plates returned, his face pale. He whispered something urgently to Willis, who stiffened immediately. The name had come back clean and heavily flagged in their system. In that moment, Willis realized this was no bluff. They hadn't just pulled over an influential man, they had pointed weapons at the head of the FBI. Nathan folded his arms, the calm now replaced with something heavier. "So, Sergeant, shall we discuss your first mistake, or do you want me to wait until your chief arrives?" Sergeant Willis swallowed hard, sweat forming at his temples. Carter's grip on his gun loosened, but his pride kept him from lowering it completely. Nathan's voice stayed measured, but there was an unmistakable edge. "Put the weapon down, officer. That's an order." Carter hesitated, glancing at Willis for direction. The sergeant gave a stiff nod. Slowly, Carter holstered his firearm, though his jaw was clenched tight. Nathan stepped closer, not in aggression, but with a calm authority that made both men instinctively step back. "Now, Sergeant, call your chief. Use my name. Then, wait." Willis fumbled with his radio, requesting a direct line to the police chief. While he waited, Nathan leaned slightly toward Carter. "5 minutes ago, you were aiming a loaded weapon at me. Do you understand the kind of report I can file? Do you understand the hearings, the disciplinary boards, the media frenzy that could follow?" Carter's mouth opened, but no words came out. The radio crackled, and Willis was patched through. "Chief, we've got a situation. Subject claims to be FBI Director Nathan Cole." A pause. Then the chief's voice came through like a whip crack. "He is the FBI Director. Stand down immediately. And for God's sake, apologize, now." Willis froze, the color draining from his face. He slowly turned toward Nathan, but before he could speak, Nathan's phone, retrieved from the SUV, rang again. This time, he answered on speaker. "Director Cole, this is the Attorney General. I've been briefed. Are you all right?" Every officer present stiffened, their earlier bravado melting into dread. Nathan's eyes never left Willis as he replied, "I'm fine. But I think justice needs to respond, swiftly." The weight in the air was almost suffocating now. The Attorney General's voice over the speaker was steady but laced with urgency. "Director Cole, do you want me to send the U.S. Marshals?" Nathan's eyes locked on Willis and Carter. "Not yet. I want to hear what the sergeant has to say first." Willis swallowed hard, stepping forward. "Sir, this was a misunderstanding. We had a call about a suspicious vehicle." Nathan cut him off with a raised hand. "Stop. A suspicious vehicle is a valid reason to observe, maybe question. But you escalated instantly to weapons drawn without a single verbal warning. That's not policing. That's intimidation." The bystanders were still recording, their murmurs growing louder. One man whispered, "That's the FBI director," and the realization began rippling through the small crowd. Carter tried to speak, but Nathan's gaze silenced him. "You didn't just point a gun at me," Nathan said evenly. "You pointed it at the face of federal law. That's a direct violation of protocol and civil rights." The Attorney General's voice came again, firmer this time. "Nathan, I'll have internal affairs on this within the hour. I'll also be contacting the governor." Willis's breathing grew shallow. Carter's pride was visibly crumbling. The third officer, who had kept mostly quiet, stepped forward. "Sir, I apologize. I didn't know who you were." Nathan shook his head. "That's the problem. Respect for the law shouldn't depend on who someone is. It should apply to everyone." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Nathan glanced at his watch. "Chief will be here in 3 minutes. Until then, I suggest you think about the difference between an officer and a threat with a badge." The sound of a police cruiser speeding up the road broke the tense silence. Tires screeched as a sleek, unmarked black vehicle pulled up. Out stepped Chief Raymond Torres, a seasoned man with silver hair, a crisp uniform, and eyes that immediately assessed the situation. He didn't greet his officers first. He went straight to Nathan. "Director Cole, sir, I apologize on behalf of my department. This is unacceptable." Nathan regarded him coolly. "Chief Torres, your men aimed loaded weapons at me in a public space without cause. That's more than unacceptable. That's a liability to your city and your badge." Torres nodded gravely. "I understand. I'll make sure this is addressed." He turned sharply to Willis, Carter, and the third officer. "You three, holster your weapons, remove yourselves from this scene, and wait for me in my office. Now." Willis tried to protest. "Chief, we were just—" "Now," Torres barked, his tone brooking no argument. The three officers retreated, their heads low, the watching crowd clearly recording every step. Nathan stepped closer to Torres. "Chief, I need to know, are you here to protect your department's image or to ensure justice is done?" Torres met his gaze. "Both. But I know which one comes first." Nathan's voice lowered, just enough for the nearby crowd to lean in. "Good. Because this won't be buried. The footage is already in the hands of my team." Torres exhaled slowly. "Understood. We'll cooperate fully." The Attorney General was still on the line, listening. "Chief Torres, I'll expect a preliminary report within 2 hours, and I'll be making calls to your mayor." The chief nodded, but Nathan's next words made him stiffen. "This isn't just about an apology, Chief. This is about setting an example, and I intend to make sure it's one your whole state remembers." By now, the gas station was surrounded by curious onlookers. Some had parked just to watch. Phones were out, lenses trained on Nathan and the chief, capturing every word and every flicker of expression. Nathan noticed them but didn't shy away. If anything, he spoke louder, making sure every syllable carried. "This kind of policing cannot go unchecked. If it happens to me, it happens to people with no voice, no camera, and no Attorney General on speed dial." A few in the crowd murmured their agreement, one woman calling out, "That's right." Chief Torres shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the growing number of witnesses. "Director, I'll make sure an internal review—" "Not enough," Nathan interrupted, his tone firm but controlled. "Transparency, public acknowledgement, and a clear disciplinary action for each officer involved. Anything less sends the message that this was acceptable." One of Nathan's security detail finally arrived, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a dark suit and earpiece. He moved to Nathan's side, scanning the area. "Sir, we've already secured the footage and sent it to headquarters." Torres's brow furrowed. "Headquarters?" Nathan didn't answer the question. Instead, he turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed an abuse of power. What you do with that matters. If you stay silent, nothing changes. If you speak, the system has to listen. The words landed heavily. A teenager in the front raised his phone higher, recording Nathan like he was a figure from history. Torres looked down briefly, realizing the tide was against him. Nathan's voice softened slightly, but the steel remained. Chief, this is bigger than your department. It's about trust, and right now, your cities is hanging by a thread. The chief exhaled. Then let's make sure it doesn't snap. Chief Torres stood there, hands clasped behind his back, staring at Nathan like a man weighing his next move very carefully. The tension was still thick, but the noise of the crowd had shifted, from quiet murmurs to open calls for accountability. Nathan didn't raise his voice, but his tone carried an undeniable authority. Chief, you have two options. Handle this with full transparency, or watch it unfold in the media without your input. Torres's jaw tightened. Director Cole, my department will cooperate. No, Nathan cut in sharply. Your department will lead the accountability. Waiting for a federal mandate will only make you look like you're covering for your officers. The Attorney General's voice, still on speaker, chimed in. Chief Torres, I recommend you listen to him. Public trust is already fragile. This is your chance to set a precedent. The chief glanced at the watching crowd, then at his own officers lingering near the cruisers, their expressions a mix of fear and resentment. He sighed. Fine. Effective immediately, those three are suspended pending investigation, and the public will know about it before sundown. There was a ripple of approval from the bystanders. Nathan gave a single, approving nod. That's a start. Torres stepped closer, lowering his voice. Director, you're making an example out of us. Nathan's eyes narrowed slightly. No, Chief. Your officers made an example of themselves. I'm just making sure the world sees it. From somewhere in the crowd, a voice shouted, About time! And others murmured their agreement. Nathan glanced at his watch, then at the chief. We're not done yet. After today, this department is going to get more oversight than it's ever had, and I'll be the one holding the magnifying glass. News vans began pulling into the gas station before the suspended officers had even left. Word had spread fast. FBI director confronted by local police was already trending. Nathan stood beside Chief Torres, who was visibly uncomfortable under the glare of multiple cameras. Microphones were shoved forward, reporters shouting questions. Director Cole, were you in fear for your life? Do you plan to press charges? Nathan's gaze was steady as he addressed them. Fear isn't the point. The point is accountability. If the most powerful law enforcement officer in the country can be threatened without cause, what hope does an ordinary citizen have? The crowd murmured in agreement. Torres attempted to step in, but Nathan continued. This isn't about me. It's about fixing a culture that jumps to force before understanding. It's about making sure protocol isn't optional based on skin color, clothing, or the car someone drives. One reporter turned to Torres. Chief, is it true your officers drew weapons before even identifying themselves? Torres's jaw flexed. We're investigating that now. Nathan cut in, his tone sharp. You don't need an investigation to admit what we all saw. 3 officers with weapons out, no verbal warning, and a crowd of witnesses. Denial will only make this worse. The Attorney General's office released a statement mid-interview, confirming federal oversight of the case. That news rippled through the reporters like a spark to dry grass. Torres leaned in to Nathan, voice low. You've just guaranteed this will be national news. Nathan's eyes never left the cameras. Good, that's exactly where it belongs. By the next morning, the footage had aired on every major network. Clips of the officers pointing their weapons were replayed alongside Nathan's calm, authoritative response. Headlines blared, FBI director targeted by local police and calls for reform intensify after gas station standoff. Chief Torres's phone rang non-stop. Reporters, city council members, even the mayor demanding explanations. The 3 suspended officers found themselves at the center of a firestorm, their names and photos circulating online. Public opinion was swift and unforgiving. At FBI headquarters, Nathan sat in his office watching the coverage. His deputy director entered with a tablet. Sir, civil rights groups are already organizing rallies in the city. They're calling this the Cole incident. Nathan's expression didn't change. Good. The more attention, the harder it is to sweep under the rug. Meanwhile, inside the local police department, Torres addressed his command staff. This department's under a microscope now. Every move we make will be judged. I want full cooperation with federal oversight, no exceptions. Some officers grumbled, others stayed silent. But Torres knew resistance was coming. That afternoon, Nathan received a call from the Attorney General. The governor's on board with a joint task force. You'll have full authority to review and recommend disciplinary measures. Nathan looked out his office window at the city skyline. Then we'll make this count, not just for me, but for every person who's ever been on the wrong end of a badge. Across the country, the public waited to see if this was just another headline, or the start of real change. Nathan intended to make sure it was the latter. Inside the local police department, tension brewed like a storm. In the locker room, a group of officers huddled together, their voices low but heated. "This is ridiculous," one muttered. "Suspend us for doing our jobs? Next time we'll just send flowers to the suspect." Another officer shook his head. "That wasn't doing your job. You pointed guns without protocol, on the FBI director. You think that's going to fly?" Carter, still defiant, slammed his locker. "I don't care if he's the Pope. You get a call about a suspicious vehicle, you respond hard. That's how you stay alive out there." "Or how you lose your badge," someone else shot back. In his office, Chief Torres read over the federal task force paperwork. His gut told him this was going to tear the department apart before it fixed anything. Still, the governor's directive was clear: full cooperation. Later that afternoon, Nathan walked into the department with 2 federal agents at his side. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Conversations stopped. Eyes followed him. "Chief Torres," Nathan greeted coolly, "I'm here to begin the review process." Torres stood. "Director, you'll have access to everything you need. But understand, some of my people think you're here to destroy them." Nathan's voice was calm but sharp. "I'm not here to destroy anyone who wears the badge with honor, but if they wear it without accountability, they've already destroyed themselves." As Nathan's team began pulling bodycam footage and personnel files, word spread through the station. The FBI director wasn't just visiting. He was staying until the job was done. In a dim conference room inside the precinct, Nathan sat at the head of the table, flanked by his 2 federal agents. Across from him, Chief Torres and the department's internal affairs captain prepared the files. The first bodycam video began to play on the large screen. It showed the patrol cars pulling into the gas station, lights blazing, officers stepping out with guns already raised. Nathan's jaw tightened as the audio filled the room. "Step out of the vehicle! Hands where we can see them!" Carter's voice was loud, shaky, and filled with unnecessary aggression. No identification, no request for compliance, just pure escalation. The footage continued, showing Nathan calmly stepping out, raising his hands, and asking what the problem was. The camera caught Willis smirking at the mention of FBI director. Nathan paused the video. "Right there," he said, pointing to the screen. "This moment, that smirk, that's not fear. That's contempt. This is exactly what erodes public trust." Torres's face was grim. "I can't defend that." The second video showed Carter subtly tightening his grip on his weapon when Nathan mentioned race. The tension in the room grew heavier with every frame. When the videos ended, Nathan leaned forward. "These are your officers, Chief. This is your culture. If I walk out of here today without change, then you've told me, and the country, that this behavior is acceptable." Torres exhaled slowly. "It's not. I'll sign off on whatever disciplinary action you recommend." Nathan nodded. "Then we start with them, and we don't stop there." The next day, the steps of City Hall were packed with reporters, activists, and curious onlookers. Camera crews jostled for position as Nathan Cole and Chief Torres emerged side by side. The tension between them was palpable, but both men knew the stakes. Nathan stepped up to the podium first. His voice was steady, deliberate. 3 days ago, I was the target of an unnecessary armed police response, without identification, without justification, and without adherence to basic protocol. I am alive to speak about it today. Many Americans in similar situations are not. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "This is not about one man or one department," Nathan continued. "It is about a culture that allows fear, bias, and power to override judgment and training. That ends now, at least here, in this city." He stepped aside, and Torres took the podium. The chief's face was tight, but his voice carried resolve. Effective immediately, the 3 officers involved are terminated from service. Additional training and oversight measures will be implemented across the department, with assistance from the FBI. Flashes popped from cameras, questions flying. "Chief Torres, is this an admission of systemic racism?" Torres didn't flinch. "It's an admission that we failed to meet the standards the public expects and deserves. We will do better." Nathan returned to the microphone for one final statement. Justice is not a favor, it is a responsibility, and if we have to fight for it in front of cameras, we will. The crowd erupted, some in applause, others shouting for even more reform. The message was clear: the city had just witnessed the beginning of a reckoning, and Nathan intended to see it through. After the press conference, Nathan and Chief Torres met privately in the mayor's office. The mayor, a sharp-eyed woman in a navy suit, sat at the head of the table, hands folded. "You've both stirred up a storm," she said bluntly. "Half the city is praising you, the other half is furious." Nathan leaned forward. "That's what change looks like, Mayor. It makes people uncomfortable. If everyone was happy, nothing meaningful would have happened." Torres looked tense. "Director, you've put my department under a federal microscope. Some of my officers feel betrayed." Nathan's tone was calm but unyielding. "Good. They should feel the weight of their actions. Trust me, the ones who do their jobs with honor will come out stronger. The rest will be gone." The mayor interjected. "This isn't just about the 3 officers anymore. The community is calling for a complete review of police conduct over the last 5 years, and they want results fast." Nathan didn't hesitate. "Then that's exactly what we'll do. Full audit. Every stop, every arrest, every complaint. If there's a pattern, it gets exposed." Torres rubbed his forehead. "You realize the union will fight this tooth and nail?" Nathan met his eyes. "Then they'll lose. The public is watching. And the governor is already on my side." The mayor nodded. "I'll back the task force publicly. But understand, Director, you're making enemies here." Nathan allowed himself a faint smile. "I've had worse. And unlike them, I don't miss." Outside the office, reporters were still camped on the steps, hungry for the next development. They wouldn't have to wait long. Nathan's next move was already in motion. 2 weeks later, the results of the full departmental audit were released. The report was explosive. Dozens of violations, repeated cases of excessive force, and a clear pattern of racial profiling over several years. The findings hit the city like a thunderclap. The mayor called an emergency press conference, flanked by Nathan and Chief Torres. "This is not a few bad apples," Nathan told the cameras. "This is a system that allowed misconduct to fester, and now that system will be rebuilt, under watchful eyes." Torres stepped forward, his voice firm. "Effective today, we are terminating 8 additional officers for misconduct. Every remaining officer will undergo retraining under a new, federally approved curriculum." Reporters shouted over one another. But Nathan's final statement cut through the noise. Accountability isn't optional. When law enforcement becomes a threat to the people it serves, it ceases to be law enforcement. It becomes lawlessness. That ends here. Public reaction was immediate. Protesters outside City Hall cheered the firings. Social media lit up with praise for the swift action. Civil rights leaders hailed it as a model for reform, while police unions grumbled about overreach. Later that evening, Nathan stood alone in his office, looking out at the city skyline. His phone buzzed. It was the Attorney General. "Congratulations, Nathan. You didn't just win a fight, you changed the rules." Nathan allowed himself the faintest smile. Not enough, but it's a start. Outside, the streets felt different. For once, people weren't just talking about justice. They were seeing it, swift, public, and undeniable. And Nathan Cole knew this was only the beginning.